Well, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Hope you both are well, and it's a delight to spend this time with you today. Why don't we begin by your giving our viewers an overview, each of you, of your professional backgrounds, and then tell us a bit, in a nutshell, about the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation.
So my name is Conrad Mallett. I am currently the deputy mayor of the city of Detroit. I'm sitting in my office, and as I've said many times to my colleague, Kevin Johnson, this is my third go-round with the city of Detroit. I was the chief operating officer under former mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, and I have the delight and honor to be an executive assistant to the great mayor of the city of Detroit, Coleman Alexander Young. I have had the privilege of serving in and out of government in a variety of capacities. I graduated from the University of Southern California's Law School in 1979. I've been involved in politics with my father, Conrad L. Mallett Sr., since I was 16 years old. I have had the privilege of working for President Jimmy Carter. I have served, as I indicated, Mayor Coleman A. Young. I was the legal advisor and legislative director for Governor James J. Blanchard. I've been twice senior partner at law firms of great distinguished and accomplishment in the state of Michigan. I served on the Michigan Supreme Court and 2 years as its Chief Justice. I've been the general counsel for the Detroit Medical Center, which in its day was the largest hospital system in the state of Michigan with more than 15,000 employees. I've been the president of Sinai Grace Hospital and president of Huron Valley Sinai Hospital. And all of my work largely has been public service related, connected to the fortunes of the state of Michigan, and dedicated to the forward progress of the city of Detroit. It's really been a delight doing the work that I've done, and I'm privileged to be with you here this morning.
I guess my question is, what haven't you done over a very distinguished career?
Thank you. My mother used to ask me all the time, do you have a pension from anywhere?
Well, the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation is, without question, fortunate to have you at the helm. And Kevin, you are fortunate as the CEO to have a partner so experienced and distinguished. Why don't you tell us about yourself a bit, Kevin?
Well, thank you, Doug. And I am very fortunate. I'm a little small town boy from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And the Myrtle Beach that I grew up in is not the one you read about today. It was basically a rural little beach town that emerged into this kind of international destination for tourism after I left. But it was a really small town when I grew up there. And I got my start in economic development by pure accident. I graduated from South Carolina State University with a degree in political science and pre-law. And I had this aspiration when I was coming out of school that I was going to be an ambassador and work in the Foreign Service. I was a big lover of National Geographic magazine, and I felt like the only way for me to see this stuff that I was reading in these magazines live was to go and experience the world. And the only way I knew to do that was try to get in some kind of foreign service, but I didn't know what it took to do it. My parents weren't educated beyond the 12th grade, and so they didn't know how to guide me and direct me and that kind of thing. But when I graduated, wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, so I ended up being a buyer at a men's clothing store in my hometown. It was one of those high-end men's clothing stores, and my buddy from school got a job in Anderson, South Carolina, where he was from. And he said, Kevin, you talk so much. I bet you can talk your way into this position that we have open here. And I drove up to Anderson, South Carolina, interviewed with the executive director, a guy named Rusty Burns, who I owe my career to. And they just happened to have an economic development function housed within the planning department. And we had this big client to come to town after I got the job, and we went to dinner. And he saw how I performed at dinner and thought, you know what, I think you can do this kind of stuff. And that was in 1987. And from there, I've had the good fortune of working in multiple states around the country: North Carolina twice, South Carolina, Georgia twice, Florida, Arizona, and now I'm in the state of Michigan. And it has been a distinct honor to lead economic development efforts, most recently in Atlanta and now here in Detroit. And it is an amazing journey. And you know economic development to be a journey. And that's what I'm on. So I'm not from Detroit, but I got here as fast as I could.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Now, tell us a bit about the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation.
So Kevin, why don't you jump in and I'll step in after you.
I most certainly will do that, Conrad. And I think it's important to note that this organization, and you heard my chairman mention Coleman A. Young, this organization is the birth child of Coleman Young. And what it's designed to do, and it has been doing successfully for over 40 years, is leading economic development organization, coordination, and response to grow the economy of the city of Detroit. It has distinct capabilities associated with not only mandates from the city of Detroit, but also statutory responsibilities from the state of Michigan, because we also manage 8 public authorities on behalf of the city of Detroit to utilize tools that those authorities are empowered to use in order to drive growth and development in this city. We are a private nonprofit organization, and our chief client, if you will, is the city of Detroit through their leadership, starting with the mayors that have served this city, and the most recent mayor, Mayor Michael Duggan. We have had a successful impact on this community, and we perform these functions by business attraction functions, business retention functions, industrial land assembly. We also have a pure small business function with distinct tools to drive entrepreneurial growth and development for that purpose. We also have a marketing function where we go domestically and internationally telling the Detroit story to corporations and individuals about the advantages of doing business in our city. That is our chief function and responsibility. We have a strategic plan that we are about to launch, a second one since I've been here, to give us directional focus moving for the next 3 to 4 years. So that's the DEGC, and I'm very pleased to lead it.
So Doug, the only thing that I would add to the description that Kevin provided, the DEGC has been that arm of private nonprofit government that has helped push the city of Detroit forward. There are bureaucracies within the city of Detroit which have to be managed and partnered with, but the flexibility that the DEGC gives the city allowed us, for instance, to bring the first Stellantis plant once the merger had occurred between FCA and Stellantis, to the city of Detroit. Were it not for Kevin's leadership, were it not for the DEGC's flexibility, we could not have assembled the land necessary to create the opportunity for Stellantis to bring 5,000 jobs to the city of Detroit. It was the DEGC almost 30 years ago that created for then chairman of General Motors, Tom Murphy, the opportunity to locate a new Cadillac plant in the city of Detroit. All through its history, DEGC has been available and has been the key economic partner driving forward the idea that what could help the city of Detroit thrive are more jobs for the people who live here. What could help the city of Detroit thrive is the partnership that DEGC has, both with our regional fellows and our state of Michigan colleagues. So it really has been an effective partner. It has been a vigorous advocate. And what it has also been is then the innovative engine that has allowed us to change with the times as the scope and responsibility of economic development has evolved.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. As you were talking, I'm reminded that on my bookshelf, I have a book from graduate school by the fellow who's thought to be the founder of urban economics, a Wayne State professor you may have heard of or even met, Wilbur Thompson.
Yes.
And one of the highlights of graduate school was spending the day with Wilbur, learning about what makes for a great city economically. And Detroit is, of course, one of the great cities. And our specific topic today is a program that has been launched on your watch at the corporation called Detroit Means Business. Before we get into the details of Detroit Means Business, give us a bit of the backstory, if you would. What led to the creation of this program? What issues were you responding to?
So, Doug, the city of Detroit, as many of the watchers of this podcast and listeners to the recording know, is one of the most important cities of the United States, but also one of the most troubled. 40% of the people who live in the city of Detroit live below the poverty line. There is, however, present in this city a very, very vibrant, disorganized small business community. One of the thoughts that Kevin had, particularly during the pandemic, was that this disorganized group would not have a methodical way of accessing supports and services available to them made available to them by the federal government without significant, direct, focused assistance. So we are very fortunate in this town to have a very involved, committed corporate community trying desperately to drive the city forward. So one of our great friends at Detroit Energy Corporation, the old Detroit Edison, Dave Meter, Kevin, Dave Blaskowitz from an entity called Invest in Detroit, but the Rocket Mortgage Corporation, a lot of our philanthropic partners gathered together, and we came up again under Kevin's leadership with this with a drive toward supplying our small businesses all of the PPE that they needed, giving them direction as best we could on how to access the federal funds that were available, and really trying to prop up what we believe to be a significant economic engine in the city, where, and this is a number, Doug, and I get very frustrated with my team because the number is not exact, but here's the reason why. You will get an estimate in the city of Detroit that we have 25,000 small businesses. Somebody else will holler out, no, Doug, that's not correct. We have 50,000 small businesses. Kevin and I take a more conservative approach and settled on the number 10, but really know that number to be not accurate in that so many of our small businesses simply are operating below the radar screen. They are not licensed, they are not recognized, they are living in the shadows. And part of what we wanted to do with the success associated with our COVID-19 effort, and Kev, maybe you could talk about the success we had with the restaurant initiative, but with the success of our COVID-19 initiative was really then to permanently focus a separate entity on the support required for really, let's call the number at this point, Doug, 10. So there are 40,000 people conservatively employed by small businesses in the city of Detroit. In every other economic circumstance, an employer or an employer group that employed 40,000 people would be lionized, would be supported, would be dissected, would be regularly showered with attention and resources. And that's what we've determined we need to do with the small businesses in our city. Prop them up, find out what we can do through what I think is going to be a very significant effort where, according to the chairperson, Detroit Means Business, Carla Walker Miller, that it will be personalized to the small business owner, recognizing that the needs of each one of these small businesses is going to be specific to, as opposed to cookie cutter applied. And so it's a very complex task. We have this brief window, as you know, of opportunity, because frankly, without trying to make it too political, but President Biden has made it possible for us to economically support these small businesses in a way we've never had the capacity for. And under Kevin's leadership, we are determined to take advantage of this moment.
Doug, what you just heard is completely inappropriate. It is appropriate to understand the complexity that we faced because, quite frankly, this organization was stood up as a response to could have been an economic calamity in our city. One of the things that you'll learn quickly, if you don't already know, is that Detroit is a city that is made up, its neighborhoods are made up of small businesses. This is not a town that is suburban in its structure. You don't get in your car and drive to a power center to go get groceries. You don't get in your car to go get goods and services that are common, that you walk down the street and you go get those services, or you might drive a block or two, but you don't go out on the edges of town to go to a strip shopping center. We're not structured that way as a city. Not that we don't have access to those types of services, but what we're trying to do is retain as much of the small business ecosystem and environments that we are trying to create as possible. So this pandemic exposed to us a lot of things that we needed to address. And so we put Detroit Means Business together to really do what I call three things. I said, first, we got to survive. Help these small businesses survive. And I'll give you some statistics on how we were able to accomplish that. But the next thing, and I know Conrad will spend some time on this when we get to it, but then we had to stabilize those small businesses. First, keep them open, survive. Then once they're open, stabilize them. And then the next phase, and the phase that we're into right now, which I'm very excited about, is we got to help them thrive. I call it the SST model. Survive, stabilize, and thrive is what we're doing. So what did we do during this process in the whole survival aspect? We hand delivered applications to over 1,000 Detroit small businesses, hand delivered them to. We facilitated $742 million in PPE loans. We developed an online platform that does not exist. So just understand, from March 13th of 2020, we didn't have the things that I'm telling you about right now. It didn't exist, all right? And the reason why I say March 13th, because that's when the governor shut down the state of Michigan. So everything I'm telling you now did not exist. It wasn't an infrastructure to accomplish what we're talking about on March 12th, okay? We did an online platform and that reached over 35,000 small businesses. We assembled 6,000 PPE kits for free. So Conrad talked about 10,000 businesses. Well, we distributed 6,000 PPE kits, hand delivered. And we developed reopening guidelines. How do you reopen once we got through the survival? How do you reopen these small businesses? And at the time, hand sanitizer and all, how do you do that? And we did that, and it was downloaded on our platform over 10,000 times. So we were building this thing as a response to a very calamitous situation for our small business community. And we'll talk about, what we're doing today, moving forward.
Tell me a little more about the structure of the program. Where is it housed? How is it administered? Are there partner organizations closely involved? Just fill in some of the organizational detail.
So first of all, let's be clear. DEGC has always had a small business function. Kevin and his team have been excellent stewards of focusing energy as best they could on the small business. But as you know, Doug, conceptually, economic development was always focused on the big deal, was always focused on the 5,000 employer opportunity, on the 500 employer opportunity. So the DEGC is structured to deliver personalized services, but to very large, complex actors, as opposed to small businesses, which could be John Jones and Sally Smith and their respective partners. And so providing services to John Jones and Sally Smith that they thought were in fact delivered with sensitivity and respect caused us really to examine how it was that we anticipated these services would be delivered. In a moment of really, really what I think a profound intellectual generosity, Kevin and his team made the observation that, look, we need to have a separate entity directly affiliated with the DEGC, but whose prime focus is small business. Not that it is a division of the work that we do, but in fact, small businesses make up an extraordinarily important economic engine in the city. They need the kind of organized focus and attention from professional persons who wake up every morning dedicated to small business success and growth, as Kevin talked about, the SST model. And so we determined to set up a companion structure. Now, the reason that that's important is because Kevin is like any other a CEO. There is a vision, there's a strategic plan, there's a set of responsibilities that historically have been managed by the organization, and suddenly introducing a different subset. And I will grant you, very similar in terms of mission, but a completely distinct orientation. We determined that we would, at the very least, try to create under the DEGC umbrella a Detroit Means Business entity that would have a separate board, that would have a companion mission, that would be upon whose board Kevin would sit. And this companion organization, Doug, would buy all of its backroom services from DEGC. But there would be this separate entity that the small business community could wrap their arms around and understand was focused just on them. In addition to what Kevin described, as we stood DMB up, one of the first leader of the entity was a young man by the name of Pierre Baton, a really, really bright person. And at Kevin's direction and under Pierre's leadership, remember when there was the restaurant relief program, where restaurateurs could apply to the federal government and receive dollars that they could use to pay their staffs and facilitate their reopening as we began to mature in our COVID-19 experience. Kevin talked about the hand delivery of PPE and other kind of applications. Pierre and his team went to 2,600 restaurants in the city of Detroit, which is an interesting number. First of all, I'm not sure we knew that there were that many. Number one. Number two, in their hands, we put paper applications. You say, well, Conrad, why do you keep harping on that as if that is important? Well, many persons in the small business community don't have access to the kind of electronic wherewithal that even people in middle-class homes have, number one. Number two, these are very complex forms. And just like you don't want young people who are in public schools struggling to do their homework on their phone, we could not serve this small business community if what we said to them was fill out all of this paperwork electronically, send it in, and hope and pray that it gets to where it's supposed to be. This is not where we are as a community. I will grant you that some of our small business community members are very sophisticated. And Kevin and I know those persons well. But there are people who are very basic in their understanding of how it is that their businesses ought to operate and have no clue on how to manage within a very complex federal environment. So with the 2,600 applications that we filled out, what was Pierre's number, Kevin, that we were able to deliver to our restaurants?
We were able to deliver $742 million. I'm sorry, 1,000 applications for restaurant relief funds.
So so think about that. This just was an extraordinary effort that was literally done hand to hand, door to door, physical connectivity. And one of the things that Kevin and his team have been open to is the board's insistence that we try as best we can, even in the midst of COVID-19, to do this work face-to-face, to create, Doug, a trust relationship between the providers of the services and the recipients thereof. That's the key. Trust is the thing that the large employer segment has with DEGC. General Motors, Stellantis, Ford, Magna Corporation, Lear, these are large automobile manufacturers that I'm positive my colleagues on the phone know, but they have personal relationships with Kevin and his team, and there's years of trust that has been built up, which allows Kevin Lear, what is it, 6-7 months ago, Kevin put in the they're putting in a new automobile plant. I mean, Kevin can give you a list of automobile related success stories that is at least a page and a half long that have been accomplished over the last 3 years. And so small business lags behind, not because we're not trustworthy, but because they don't know who we are. And Doug, you know, it still is true. People get terrified when someone says, "Hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Now, tell me a little bit more about the organization of Detroit Means Business. You said it has its own board.
Yes.
How was the board constituted? And
so the board came out of DMB. Kevin and his team, we relied on persons who were committed to doing this business on our DEGC board. So you had people like I mentioned, Doug Meter. I've mentioned the name Carla Walker Miller. She's an African-American woman, small business owner. We have a young woman by the name of Jackie Woods, another African-American woman, small business owner. Chuck Nolan, African-American man, small business owner. Dave Blaskowitz, president of Invest Detroit. Through DTE, we have the services of McKinsey Consulting Group, who are helping us stand this organization up. We are let's see.
Chase.
Yep, that's right. What was the young woman's name?
September Hargrave.
Chase, and that's where Pierre went.
Yeah.
We've had a very vibrant group, which Doug was which all of whom had previous connection back to DEGC. And again, I want to stress Kevin's intellectual generosity when people said, "Okay, Kevin, we're going to migrate away from our DEGC board responsibilities and focus on our DMB responsibilities." Had Kevin and his team resisted that, we would have not made the progress that we have. We would have had a crisis that we didn't need. And I just want to point out, this is the kind of leadership that Kevin and his team have provided. And you know, part of this is a discussion about leadership. Leadership needs to behave in a humble manner, and they need to be intellectually generous. And we're grateful that we have that in Kevin.
Doug, let me just add one other point, just so you just get a bigger, even a broader. We have 60 coalition partners on the DMB that are spoken. And coalition partners range from the individuals and organizations that Conrad just mentioned. But every foundation that's in this area has representation in our coalition. So that's everyone from Ralph C. Wilson Foundation to Kresge, to Ford, to You know, that's one range. Then we have financial institutions from Bank of America to First Independence Bank, an African-American owned banking operation. So we have banking representation. Then we have our what we call business service organizations that support small business. So that's Invest Detroit, that's Tech Town, that's the Community Foundation of the state of Michigan. They're in that. So it's 60 different coalition partners. And we were able to subdivide them based on their areas of interest when we were trying to attack the needs of small businesses as a result of this pandemic. So they're all subdivided, but we come together, we draft ideas, we have a list of North Star goals. So this is the thrive part of the conversation that we need to have. So what's the long-term vision of DMB? And I know you're going to ask me that question.
I am.
But that went from, okay, now that we've stabilized, what do we do with this effort? How do we keep these coalition partners engaged? Because how we're doing small business support on March 12th is different on how we're doing it, you know, on April the 11th of 2022. It's different. And there are expectations of the small business community that we have to meet, because along the way, we set this bar of expectations. And now we have to come up with a plan with their input. So we don't do anything arbitrarily. What I tell you we're going to do is comes from direct input from the small business community, and not Brookings or McKinsey. This is from them. And so what we're now trying to do is create an organization, and you've asked about it 3 times. So we will have a president and CEO of Detroit Means Business, who will be my companion partner. They will have program managers that are underneath that have specific responsibilities to the needs of the small business community to drive that. We will be back office support, meaning legal, finance, and administration. The DEGC will. But this president will have an opportunity to shape this organization in a way that gets us to what we've already determined to be our North Star goals.
So Detroit Means Business basically will be an independent standalone corporation, affiliated though with.
There'll be a tether to DEGC. No doubt about that, because we still have small business responsibilities within DEGC that we must manage, because the city of Detroit has told us so. We have some responsibilities that we have to fulfill, but these North Star goals that have been put forward has to be managed, and it has to be managed professionally. You know, we have multiple responsibilities at DEGC. We have 67 people that work here that have distinct functions they must play in order for us to meet our objectives of our organization. So, you know, I can't take my eye off of that, but I must make sure that this small business function is managed in a way that gives us the thriving that we need. And in order to do that, it has to have some level of independence and a great level of focus in order for that to be accomplished.
What have been the greatest challenges you've faced in getting Detroit Means Business going, getting it set up and structured and staffed and so on? What have been the greatest challenges you've had to cope with?
So, I mean, Doug, I think that is a very interesting question. I think the greatest challenge has been really the recognition that really was first brought to us, and observations that Kevin made, that if we're really going to create the organization that we think is necessary, that we need to be able to recruit, as Kevin indicated, his own partner. That person, he or she, must be an equal in terms of experience and respectability within the economic development community. When we first started out with DMB, we thought that if we made the organization separate and slightly more strong, that it could do all of the work that Kevin and I have been discussing, but that we could do so with really energetic, interested, first-time executive leadership. And because the work was new, these young people who perhaps had not had leadership responsibility before would automatically be successful. And that just proved not to be the case. We've now made the determination that we need a senior leader. What we have said is, with all due respect to Kevin, we need another Kevin Johnson to be in charge of DMB. We have to pay that person similarly. That person has to have a level of experience doing this work similar to that which Kevin brought when he came in as the CEO of DEGC, that we really are going to have to accept the fact that this work is significantly important, requires its own focus, and really is going to require an experienced leader, particularly in the beginning, to lead us forward. Because as Kevin pointed out, the expectations of the small business community now are appropriately high. They understand that we recognize their importance. They understand that there is a brief window of opportunity, which many of them want to make sure they're able to jump through. And so we are trying to create the small business equivalent of the DEGC. We are trying to bring on board a Kevin Johnson lookalike who will help, as Kevin indicated, shape the organization so that it delivers. And here's the point I think, Doug, that's important, that will deliver as the small business community has said to us they have to have. And that's the personalized services that I discussed very early on in our conversation. Every small business is not the same. The needs of each small business owner may be categorically the same, but the delivery system that they need to be successful may be different. Every small business needs accounting services, but a small business that is run by some of the people that Kevin and I know who are very successful, they got an accountant. Perhaps they're an accountant themselves. They have figured out the financing function and the financing organization function that they have to thrive over a period of years, and some of them over several decades, as opposed to the brand new entrepreneur who believes they have a really, really good idea, who believes that they have a product worthy of promotion, but really doesn't know how to manage a small business, and not clear as to the tax consequences of an LLC versus an S corporation. And that's the kind of specificity that these small business owners need in terms of help and support they have to have. If you pick the wrong organizational structure, it could be devastating. And this is where we are in terms of trying to specifically deliver to the small businesses that we come in contact with the services that they need. One. Two, the city of Detroit is involved in a business corridor improvement process where literally we are spending millions of dollars in streetscapes along major business corridors. And we need to, and that spending needs to be aligned with location decisions that brand new small business owners are making so that they can take advantage of the work the city of Detroit's doing to create the opportunity to allow their customers to buy their services in a pleasant circumstance that is both attractive and safe. So there are a lot of opportunities, but opportunities can be squandered if you don't have the kind of focused organizational support that is really directing people along avenues that there's no way that they could know all by themselves.
It's very interesting. You've done far more than establish a program. You've actually spawned an organization, permanent organization, not a program that's going to go away, but you've assist an organization part of your extended family, the Growth Corporation's family. But very interesting.
We did. We're very lucky that we had that kind of leadership to recognize it. And what we're now trying to do is institutionalize it and make it a permanent part of how Detroit manages its small business affairs moving forward.
I'd be interested in how many other organizations of your kind around the country, economic development corporations, have followed a similar model in dealing with small business. Are there any?
I'm not aware. I mean, I know where we were as a city, and one of the fear, you know, if we were to, it's interesting, when this thing first started, we were getting up at 7:30 in the morning, bleary-eyed, having these discussions. And the fear factor associated with what we were able to accomplish was this. We knew, as Conrad indicated early on, that our small business support ecosystem was completely disjointed. And quite frankly, because of the work we had been doing prior to the pandemic, DEGC as an organization, we were kind of standing out above the rest and still didn't know what everybody else was doing. But we knew, you know, every neighborhood had its, you know, its business, the Illinois Business Association,
right?
The Grandmont Rosedale Business Association. These are neighborhoods around the city of Detroit, business organizations. And we knew that they wouldn't have access to the kinds of things that were coming our way because of our reputation. The state of Michigan wasn't going to call them and say, look, we have this grant money available for you. They were going to call us because of our relationship with MEDC. The federal government was going to call us because we are a CDBG recipient and put money out for programs that we've managed, specifically Motor City Match. So the federal government was going to call us. The banking community was going to say, look, DEGC, you got to help us get these dollars out. So we knew they were going to call us, but we knew that also they weren't going to call them. And because they weren't going to call them, we had to rally up some kind of organizational model that was as close to a one-stop shop as you can get for a city that's this diverse, this geographically significant, and scalable. And if we didn't do that, there were going to be a lot of hurt businesses in this community. And that's that if I were to report something to you, Doug, about the excitement and the crowning achievement of where we are thus far, it has been our ability to rally around and pull together these business service organizations and hopefully have them invest their energy, time, and resources into DMB.
Well, gentlemen,
at some
I'm
point,
sorry.
That's okay. At some point, Kevin will share with you, I don't think on this podcast, but share with you later, the strategic plan for DEGC. A significant part of that plan is attracting to the city of Detroit jobs that are affiliated with the technology sector of our economy. And that's going to be terrifically hard to do. Our public school system here is not as strong as we would like. And if you remember, we were in the running to be the home of a new Amazon headquarters.
I do recall.
Part of the reason that we did not win that designation was that the Amazon people made the cold, hard, difficult decision that we did not have the educational infrastructure available to us to support their intellectual aspirations. That remains a central difficulty for DEGC. And so in between all of the work, and think about this is what makes DEGC different than other entities who do similar work. DEGC has regular conversations with the Detroit Public School Community District to see if there are opportunities for us to partner with them to make stronger the education that we're providing our children, so that Kevin's people then can make a better case to technology companies that you should locate your company here. All of that takes time, energy, and the fruits associated with that effort are years away. What we have not lost, however, is the necessary part of our responsibility to create jobs now for the people who live here currently, in spite of the educational system that exists. So, Doug, I just simply want to say that I always tell my team, we want to deal with people who are self-interested. People who are self-interested want to get things done. They behave in an urgent manner. We are interested in our small business community, not just because we're good and kind people who are filled with altruistic impulses. We need the jobs that these small businesses can provide to make this community stronger, so that we have a base to create the kind of long-term economic energy that we need to continue to thrive as a city. We are self-interested, we are urgent, we are concerned, we are mildly terrified that we're not moving fast enough because this window of opportunity, which we think is 3 or 4 years available to us max, we've got to make sure we get this work done before those windows close.
You know, hearing you gentlemen talk reminds me of, I mentioned Wilbert Thompson, the urban economist pioneer. One of his theories, and I think I'm recalling it correctly, was great cities like Detroit, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, what you might call legacy cities that go back to the beginning of the industrial revolution in this country. No matter what vicissitudes they face at one time or another, have the capacity to reinvent themselves. And hearing you talk and hearing the energy you radiate certainly augurs well, I think, for reinvention in Detroit. I want to close this fascinating discussion by asking you a final question or 2 questions. One, in a nutshell, what has Detroit Means Business accomplished? What have been the preeminent outcomes thus far? And that's sort of a summary of several things you've said. And then what's on the horizon? What program tweaks, adjustments do you see in the future as this program moves forward? So I throw that out as a sort of couple wrap-up questions, if you will.
So Kev, why don't you take the first part?
Yeah, I'll talk to you about impact, and I'd mentioned some of it to you before. You know, at the height of the pandemic, we awarded over $15 million to approximately 2,000 small business grantees. We dispersed $18 million in cash grants to Detroit businesses. We facilitated $250 million in PPP loans to small businesses. I talked to you about the 6,000 personal protection equipment kits that we distributed by hand to small businesses. The downloads of our reopening guidelines were critically important because we really, our small businesses really did not know how to attack that. So to be able to, and we made it almost like the schoolhouse rock type of statement, you know, 10,000 times those were downloaded. We did one-on-one PPP application assistance. So we sat in front of small businesses to do that. We conducted webinars for our small business community with SBA loans and health and safety updates, local procurement opportunities we put in place. We had a fully staffed customer service, a customer experience center with the support of our partners at Rocket Mortgage, where there was an 800 number, and you call 800 number and said, I need help with my loan application, and you were directed to our staff to allow that. And that center was open, you know, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, including on the weekends. You know, to have that, not many economic development organizations say that they had their own call center for support, 24 hour, 12 hours a day. And then we did virtual coaching for accounting and marketing and PR. One aspirational goal we still have and we are implementing is we really want to try to digitize every small business in the city. The construction of some of our businesses here did not have an online presence. And for a long time, there wasn't, a DoorDash available to Joe and Mabel's Bar and Grill. The neighborhood bar didn't have a QR code to download menus. Didn't have that. So in order for us to digitize them, it gave them more opportunities that they didn't even think existed. And so we are in the throes of trying to digitize every small business that we can get our hands on that we know that they need. So those are some of the accomplishments that we're able to put in place.
So what's coming?
So what's coming, Doug, I think is this: number one, an organization that's going to be able to deliver the kind of customized service that Kevin described, number one. Number two, it's going to be an organization that is going to be able to case manage a small business owner so that the small business owner is in touch with all of the various organizations that Kevin described that can deliver them service that is not going to be duplicated by Detroit Means Business and not offered by DEGC. But at the same time, while we direct the small business owner to these companion organizations with which we have an affiliation, we're also going to be their advocate. We're also going to help them fill out the forms. We're also going to try to create the circumstance where the interaction results in an outcome that's both positive and economically meaningful. We want the organization to be aligned closely with the city of Detroit so that for instance, as Kevin's team that's in charge of industrial land development and acquisition is searching out new opportunities, and a new opportunity is identified, the small business entity says, okay, John, Conrad, Sarah, and Michelle, DEGC has just located a business that's going to go in X place. It's going to have 200 employees. We've done a survey and we know that their immediate needs are X and Y. You are in business to provide X and Y. We will help you locate near this new development. That's the kind of coordination that we're looking for, because we need these small businesses to succeed, and we have knowledge and capability that they can use that will provide a foundation for them to experience success. So we've got an entity in Detroit called the Community Health Corps, which is focused on delivering personalized services to people who are living below the poverty line, who are in economic jeopardy immediately. We want to expand that model so that we are able to work with our small business community, direct them to the resources that we know that are available, advocate on their behalf so that the providers of those resources understand that this group is, that the particular individual business is primed and ready to take advantage of the opportunity, coordinate with the city of Detroit and DEGC so that business location decisions are made appropriately and with some science base associated to them. And we were on the phone the other day with a consultant from Kresge who is doing some work at Brookings. And the question was, well, what's going to happen when these ARP dollars go away? And the consultant said, don't worry about it. There's going to be another crisis. And when there is, there's going to be another opportunity. And so when the ARP dollars go away, something else will pop up. And, you know, that's certainly been my attitude, but it was nice to hear an informed person who shared my optimism. So I think Detroit Mean Business in 3 or 4 years will be, you know, 50% as effective as DEGC, but they'll be well on their way. And Kevin will have facilitated the creation of a partner organization that should allow us really to have a direct impact on the number of jobs that Doug, that we can absolutely categorically prove that we facilitated. And that's going to be key for us.
You know, another thing that's occurred to me listening to you fellows describe Detroit Means Business is that you must have developed a very effective board chair CEO partnership. And it's one of the major themes, I think you probably know this, of our blog is board chief executive relations and also the board chair CEO relationship. I think we might have a second video somewhere down the pike if you're interested, including maybe homing in on innovation. The board chair partnership is board chair CEO partnership as an innovation driver. Anyway, food for thought. I know you're tremendously busy. I appreciate very much you taking the time to share the obvious success story of Detroit Means Business and also tell us about the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation. I wish you a good rest of your day. Thanks for spending a good chunk of it with me. And so you two take care and we'll talk back soon. I hope.
Thank you, Doug. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Kev, have a good day, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.
You take
Take care.
care. Thank you much. Be
Welcome.
well.